All right, now we're in the testimony section of this week's Maxim, and you need to find somebody else who agrees with the Maxim that we're studying. And so you could easily find this in the Bible. You can probably even find another quote in Proverbs or Ecclesiastes is somewhere you could look. Ecclesiastes does speak a lot about kings and the responsibilities they have. Another option is just doing a Google search. And when you do this, you need to make sure that you're not just providing a quote about drunkenness in itself, because that's not exactly what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is drunkenness is not fit for rulers. It's not fit for people who are in positions of authority. And so you need to make sure that you're not just saying drunkenness is bad, because that's not necessarily what this is saying. I'm not saying it's not bad, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about it's not fitting for people who are in authority to drink, because they need to make sure that they are sober-minded so they can make weighty decisions. So you can do a Google search for quotes about drinking or quotes about drunkenness, and then you can find ways of narrowing it down so you actually are finding one that applies here. So when you do this, you need to make sure that you're not just putting the quote by itself. You need to write a sentence to explain how your new quote, how the author of that agrees with the author of this maxim, or agrees with the wisdom of the maxim, because they're both referring to what? Okay, so you should introduce your quote in your testimony and who said it, and then you need to write a sentence explaining how it actually does affirm the wisdom of our maxim. And the last section is the epilogue. So remember, the epilogue is just like one or two sentences. You need to name who your audience is. And so in this case, who would we be specifically addressing here? Who's your audience that most needs to hear this? Now, we could make a claim that everybody needs to hear this, because in some ways, whether right now or in the future, everybody is going to be in a position of authority over something. But specifically, we're addressing people who are in positions of authority. We're addressing people who have been given stewardship over other people, or over a country, or over an organization, or over a family. So you need to make sure that in your epilogue, you are entreating this audience to embrace the wisdom of this saying. Okay, so you need to be very, you need to be full of praise of the wisdom of this saying, and entreat your audience to heed the words.